The Backyard Rebellion. It was a crisp Saturday morning in Maplewood, a quiet suburb of Raleigh, North Carolina, when I settled into my recliner with a steaming cup of coffee. The sun filtered through my kitchen blinds, casting lazy stripes across the oak table. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ida, stranger in a Hawaiian shirt, clutching a beach ball and a plate of wings, sauntering past my window. I froze, blinked, and leaned closer. This wasn't a daydream. My backyard was a circus. Dozens of people laughing, splashing, grilling had turned my private oasis into a full-blown beach bash. In the center of it all stood Evelyn Harper, president of the Maplewood Homeowners Association, decked out in a straw hat and sipping a cocktail like she owned the place. My grass was littered with folding chairs, a bounce house was crushing my rose bushes, and a DJ was blasting music under the magnolia tree I'd planted after my wife passed. Evelyn waved at me like I was late to her party. That's when I knew I wasn't just annoyed, I was done. My name's Tom Grayson, a 58-year-old retired engineer who values peace over popularity. My ranch-style home, built in the 1960s, predates the HOA by a decade, meaning I'm free from their petty fines and nosy newsletters. Evelyn, with her clipboard and superiority complex, had always treated me like an outsider. I was fine with that until she turned my yard into her personal event venue. I stepped outside, the smell of sunscreen and burgers hitting me like a wave. Kids were cannonballing into an inflatable pool parked on my patio. A porta potty sat by my shed like a monument to bad taste. I marched toward Evelyn, dodging a toddler with a squirt gun. She smiled, unfazed. "Tom, isn't this fun? The HOA picked your yard for our summer splash. It's got the best shade." I told her my property wasn't her playground. She smirked, citing some vague community space clause in the HOA charter. I threatened to call the cops. She shrugged, claiming she'd cleared it with them. Skeptical, I dialed 911. 2 officers arrived, looking baffled. Evelyn had told them I was on vacation and had approved the event. When I showed my ID, they suggested I file a civil suit and left. I stood there, watching strangers trample my lawn, my blood pressure climbing. Back inside, I checked my security feeds. Evelyn had draped a tarp over one camera and disabled 2 others. My side gate was padlocked from the outside. They'd trapped me in my own home for a party I didn't invite. But then I saw Ida blinking alert on my Septic system app. I installed a high-tech septic setup last year, complete with sensors and a remote valve for overflow control. An idea sparked. Through the window, I zoomed in on Evelyn. She was collecting cash from guests. My jaw tightened. She wasn't just hosting a party. She was renting my yard like a venue. I opened a browser and found her listing on a rental site. Shady Raleigh Retreat. Perfect for parties. The photos were Minami fence, my fire pit, cropped to hide the house. Reviews raved about Evelyn's private oasis. One mentioned extra hose access near the septic line. My system was at 65% capacity. One tap could unleash chaos. I didn't hesitate. I screenshotted the listing, saved my security footage, and set up 3 hidden trail cams around the yard. Then I opened the Septic app, hovered over manual overflow, and pressed it. The light flashed green. Outside, the party roared on, oblivious. A faint gurgle started under the grass, drowned out by the DJ's bass. I sipped my coffee and waited. 5 minutes later, the smell hit. A girl with a popsicle wrinkled her nose. A teen by the pool gagged, pointing at the ground. Grayish sludge bubbled up near the inflatable pool, slow but relentless. Guests waved their hands, blaming a nearby swamp. A man in sandals stepped in it, yelped, and flailed. Evelyn, tipsy and laughing, didn't notice until the DJ cut the music, covering his nose. The sludge spread, snaking toward picnic tables and the pool. Panic erupted. Kids screamed. A woman tripped, her purse sinking into the muck. Guests abandoned towels, coolers, and shoes as they scrambled for the locked gate. One man climbed the fence in desperation. Evelyn, still clutching her drink, slipped and fell into the contaminated pool. She surfaced, shrieking, her hat floating like debris. No one helped. Some laughed. Others yelled about biohazards. I watched from my porch, calm as a summer breeze. The DJ, trying to save his gear, slipped face first into the sludge. Sparks flew from his equipment. He stood, sunglasses crooked, vowing lawsuits. Evelyn, drenched and mascara-streaked, pounded on my door, demanding I let her in. I stared through the glass, pointed at the porch camera, and watched her go pale. She knew I had it all on tape. Then a cry broke my trance. A boy was stuck in my garden shed, surrounded by sludge. His mom waded toward him, gagging. I sighed, pulled on rubber boots, and trudged out. The crowd parted as I carried the kid to safety and handed him to his mother. Back in the yard, I tapped my phone. The valve closed. The flow stopped. Silence fell, heavy with shame and stench. Evelyn stood alone, ankle-deep in ruin, as guests fled. One shoved wet cash at her, calling her a fraud. Another threatened a police report. By dusk, my yard was a war zone: torn grass, scattered flip-flops, a deflated pool. But Evelyn's empire was crumbling faster. The next morning, a letter from the HOA arrived, accusing me of endangering guests and demanding a $4,000 fine. I laughed. They'd picked the wrong guy. I compiled my evidence, photos, footage, the rental listing, and my deed proving my exemption from HOA rules. I dropped it at their office with a note, for the whole board. My neighbor Carl, the HOA vice president, called. Over beers on my porch, he spilled the truth. Evelyn had been renting out yards for months, pocketing cash, and using HOA funds for supplies. My stunt had exposed her. He gave me a recording of her admitting to community events to dodge complaints. I filed a county complaint and a small claims suit for property damage. Evelyn fought back, claiming I'd weaponized sewage. A zoning officer visited, but my permits were airtight. She cleared me, noting someone had tampered with my pipes, likely Evelyn's crew. Meanwhile, a teen's video of Evelyn's pool plunge went viral. Local news dubbed it the Septic splash. Her name became a punchline. The HOA board met twice. The first, a leaked audio, caught Evelyn blaming everyone else. The second, open to residents, was chaos. Neighbors demanded refunds and her resignation. I uncovered her using HOA funds for rental ads, illegal and damning. By week's end, she was suspended, her office access revoked. Carl took over, issuing apologies and launching an audit. Evelyn's house, once pristine, fell into disrepair. Citations piled up for unpermitted patio lights and a misbuilt shed. Her press conference to clear her name flopped when sprinklers doused her mid-speech. No one came. Her home sold months later to a couple who painted over her garish teal exterior and planted roses. I rebuilt my yard: new grass, a locked septic cover, and a sign. Private property. No rentals. Neighbors, once distant, brought pies and whiskey, thanking me for toppling Evelyn. One kid drew a cartoon of her fall, captioned "Sewer Showdown." I hung it in my garage. A letter arrived from out of state, and signed, but in Evelyn's scrawl, "You'll get yours." I reported it. Carl added HOA security. But her threat felt hollow. She was gone, her legacy a meme. I hosted a barbecue, just neighbors, no fanfare. Kids played, and someone strummed a guitar. It felt right. Maplewood changed. HOA meetings focused on real issues, not petty fines. People spoke up, inspired by my stand. I stayed out of the spotlight, declining a TV producer's offer to retell the saga. My life returned to quiet work, coffee, and sunsets. The magnolia bloomed again. Evelyn thought she could bully her way to power. She didn't count on a guy with a septic valve and a long fuse. Sometimes, justice smells bad but feels just right. What do you think? Was I too harsh, or did Evelyn deserve it? Share your thoughts below, especially on standing up to injustice or dealing with bullies. Let's hear your take.